I feel compelled to say something about being a general and the Purple Heart. The first thing about the Purple Heart, I respect everybody that has one, but I have to be honest, it took no talent to win that Purple Heart. Matter of fact, I was hit by an AK-47 and a very aggressive young North Vietnamese soldier that managed to get to me. And my radio operator looked at me as I was laying there and said, "I told you to keep your head down." You know, so the lance corporals have sometimes a lot more brains than the officers, usually most of the times. The other thing I wanted to say about being a general is the day I found out I was a general, I came home very proud, and my wife, in her high school days, dated a guy who went into the Marine Corps, and we were contemporaries. And he didn't make general, and I did. So, of course, I didn't want to miss this opportunity. And I told her, "Well, what do you think? You're married to me, and I'm a general. If you'd have married Randy, you know, you wouldn't be married to a general." She said, "If I'd have married Randy, he'd have been a general, and you wouldn't." And I thought a lot about the business of the Twin Towers, as we all have. And I realized that one of the things that came out of this that I think is interesting and positive about our country is we define our heroes a little bit more broadly. I mean, I served 39 years in the Marine Corps, and I always expected to be treated as a hero, frankly. And I think anybody that wore a uniform did. And certainly we always respected firemen and policemen, and they proved their heroism that day. But we suddenly discovered that on the floors of those Twin Towers were also other heroes, people that make our nation go, that make it what it is. I've been all over this world. I mean, in 40 years, I've been to places that you never want to go. I mean, I've been on the streets of Mogadishu and the worst parts of Haiti. I mean, from one end of this world to the other, in the jungles of Africa and the deserts. And this country is so great because we do have people like you that make it great. What you do for a living, what you do to help people, what you do to make this nation great, what you do to make our economy expand, the kinds of families you have, the responsible citizens you are, these are heroes that are unsung, that day to day that we didn't realize they were there. When you think about the fact that this crash in the two buildings shook our country, shook our economy, didn't break it because we have a spirit that was always right there under the surface and emerged. But it made us realize how important we all are, how important everyone is to this country, what an important part that you all play. And I just wanted to say at the beginning of this how much I respect that. But I said, you know, he could have chosen to do what Jenny's husband did. You know, who are the heroes and where is the danger? The lines have now become very fuzzy. We're all heroes. And our country is made by a lot of people that do a lot of great things. And we've defined heroes differently, and I think in a better way. And I think we look at each other differently. Now, in keeping with what you're doing here, I thought I would speak about what you would expect, leadership, team building, but there's no way you can begin a subject on leadership or team building without first talking about people. I teach a course at the Virginia Military Institute in integrity and ethics. And I designed this course to put in elements on leadership, what makes leaders. I have to teach it in the context of national security studies because it's part of the International Studies Department. How people make decisions, ethics in national policy and foreign policy formulation, ethics in war. And I have to start by making sure my students understand what it is that make people function, what it is that make people do what they do. I've thought a lot about it. I've drawn on my own experiences. I've met a lot of people, some very interesting, leaders of countries, military people, terrorists, the enemy on a lot of circumstances. And it's interesting to try to understand why you do what you do, why I do what I do, those people that you're going to lead, what makes them function and what makes them tick. And I would just say to you to pay attention to your body. It's terrible to see a great mind or a great heart or a great spirit trapped in the body that wasn't taken care of. It's an important part of what you do. The second part of that equation is the mind. And I think it's something you have to keep active. You have to think of the mind as a muscle. And that muscle has to grow, it has to get exercised. Keep using it. Never assume that you know it all. I try to never stop learning. Every time I get involved in some sort of effort, I try to learn as much about the elements of this effort as I can. Right now I'm involved with Palestinians and Israelis. I do understand the Arabs very well. I spend a lot of time in their culture. I understand Islam. The first time I found out I was going to be assigned to U.S. Central Command, I bought 50 books and read them all in the course of about two and a half months to get ready for that job. The third part of this equation is the spirit. This is a touchy area. And I don't mean spirit necessarily in a religious sense, unless that's what it is that you need to help your spirit. It is for me. But there's something, a higher order, a higher sense of values, maybe a higher being, that we all respect, that provides that spiritual need that we need to do what we do and do it in the right way. You have to find that. Everybody needs it. It doesn't necessarily have to be God or a formal religion. It may be just the way you lead your life. And it may be just a set of values that comprise your code, your personal code, and what makes up who you are. But you need to define that. You need to understand it. You need to live up to it. People search for that code. I mean, people that want to find out the purpose of their existence look for it and look for what their life means and what they want it to mean. And it can't be done without a spiritual underpinning of some sort, a set of values. There are two forces that drive us. One is really clear. It's nature. We are, like the animals on this earth, the flora and the fauna, we have natural functions. Those functions put demands on us. Those that have studied these things like Maslow have listed them in a hierarchy. And there is a hierarchy of needs which I guess most analysts look at and study, and scientists, and say that we're going to appeal to in some order or fall into some order. Those things are natural, but sometimes they work against us. And sometimes they're difficult to control. We have a second order that makes up who we are, and this has nothing to do with nature, but it's because somehow we're on this earth with a free will, and that intellect and that mind and that spirit. And that allows us to try to rise above simply what nature places on us. There are a lot of values out there that we can look at. There are a lot of values that we can respect. There are a lot of principles that we can respect. Which ones mean most to you? My daughter asked me one time, she said, "Dad, what would you die for?" She was in college and she was in the middle of a lot of this heady stuff. And she said, "What would you die for?" And of course, I gave her the answer. I mean, I have my 5 F's that are my values that I would give my life for. You know, family, faith, friends, freedom, and the flag. I mean, that's what that I'm committed to, either by oath or by my own personal commitment. What do people want? It's simple. I mean, let me give you the observation as just about a 60-year-old guy that has been around the block and has watched people, been fascinated by people, liked people. They basically want a couple of simple things. First, they want to be treated with dignity and respect. They don't want to be viewed as part of the furniture. I never fail to say thank you to anybody. I don't care if that waiter fills your glass of water 5 times, everyone is a thank you. Never fail to talk to everybody as a peer. Never talk down to anyone. You know, look somebody in the eye. Be interested in what they are, who they are. You know, understand and listen and hear what they have to say. Every human being is a phenomenal story. And yet they were willing to put it all on the line for that. And it struck me that we teach leadership in the Marine Corps. We teach traits and principles. We try to tell people that if you obey the list, the Boy Scout list, we had a list of 14 traits, that you would have been a reincarnated version of any god you know if you could live up to that. No human could. That wasn't what mattered. There was something in the spirit and the soul that moved those people. There was something in the sense of camaraderie or purpose that they had defined for themselves. And you just needed to tap into the list, the Boy